When I was younger, there was a man at the top of my stairs. I used to go into the bathroom every night between 12 and 3, and he would always be there. He was a shadow on a mirror. I was only about 4 or 5, but other people saw him too. He even tried to push one of them down the stairs. Since moving into the house across the road, though, I haven't seen or heard from him. I can't go into my old house upstairs because there's a very unwelcome and hostile feeling to it. I still can't work out who he is. I've also seen him in my friends' houses, and he just stands there, looking at me, although there's no face, just a shadow. As a child of between 8 and 10, I had regular but always terrifying visits from what I always described as a tall shadow of a man in a cloak and a top hat. All black, very tall. Once he was carrying a cane and once a briefcase. He spoke to me one time in a loud, booming voice. He would disappear through the wall at will and return the same way. They were experiences that I would recall to friends throughout my life, and I've always described him as the Shadow Man. He has not returned since I worked up the courage to run past him and out of my room. I was only about 10 or 11 when I went to this house. It was daytime and the building was well lit. I looked into a few rooms and saw nothing out of the ordinary until I turned into a hallway. It was at the other end of the hall, looking at me. Although it had no eyes, the feeling was undeniable. The shadow person and I watched each other for some time. I didn't think it was real, but then it started walking towards me, slowly. I turned and ran. I looked over my shoulder and it had traveled about 7 meters in the split second I looked away. But when I had my eyes on it, it moved slowly. I got out of the house and looked at it again. It had stopped at the door, almost like it was unable to leave the house. It turned and walked back into the house. I'm in my teens and from New Zealand. Half a year ago, I would lie on my bed and casually surf the net. From the corner of my eye, I would see a dark mass on the top of my wardrobe facing towards me. But when I finally turned to it, it shrank to nothing, quite fast. At night, the black mass would be by my bedside or at the doorway. I would hide under the covers and curl up in a ball. I just wanted to cry for help. I have 2 sons who talk often about what they call the Shadow Man. The latest experience is when I had buckled both of them into the car and had forgotten something in my house. I went back in to get the item. I heard my 5-year-old screaming. I went running back out. My son was in shock, screaming, "Did you see it? Did you see it?" I said, "See what?" Then my 6-year-old said calmly, "The Shadow Man." They both said that he was standing right there on the deck. My 6-year-old says that the black and the white shadow follows my 5-year-old. They say that they even talk to it all the time. When my wife was pregnant with our daughter, we saw one in the house we were renting. I had just gone off the graveyard shift. We were chatting before going to bed, and my wife said she saw something in the back room. Our cat was on watch, perched on my wife's belly, occasionally growling. I was a big skeptic. "Aw, it's a bunch of BS, etc." That morning, I started towards the back room with that attitude and stopped in my tracks when both of us saw the hunched black shape move and turn to look at us with those horrible red eyes. I honestly wish I could say I didn't see what I did, but I sure as hell did. Still freaks me out. Starting at 4 or 5 years old, when we moved into our house, my daughter had been afraid of our basement. She said that she could hear children laughing, weird sounds, and the dark man lived down there. She also said that she had a ghost friend she called Bradley staying upstairs, and that Bradley keeps the dark man away from the top floor. When she was around 15, she was home with a friend sitting on the couch watching a movie. Both she and her friend saw a dark shadow in the shape of an adult's upper torso hovering by the front door. Within seconds of seeing the shape, it flew towards them and then straight down the stairs. My daughter said it was scary, but she's been more accustomed to bizarre happenings. The friend, she never came over again. About 4 years ago, I was laying in bed wide awake in the middle of the day. The windows of my house were at least 10 feet off the ground, so it could not have been someone's shadow from outside. No one else was home at the time. I looked up in my hallway, and at first I didn't see anything, but it saw me, apparently, because I guess I frightened it. I looked directly at it. It was transparent and of gray color, and had the shape of a man. When this entity saw me see it, it got scared because it looked like a person would, and then it took off down the hallway. I know this sounds crazy, but I swear it's true. Years ago, I was visited by what I know now as a shadow person. I was lying on my sofa and fully awake. It was approximately 10 p.m., and I remember thinking, I'll go to bed shortly. Then I saw this tall, dark figure come from my front door. It was male, all black, long coat and a hat. I asked, "Who are you? How'd you get in?" He walked over, and I felt drowsy and unable to move, yet not afraid. He leaned over me and breathed on me. I watched him disappear into the wall. With that, I looked at the clock, and it hadn't changed. The next morning when I woke up, my left arm was sore. I looked, and I saw a red tent-shaped mark on the top of my arm. I've even shown the mark to a relative just to confirm it. This started happening to me about a year and a half ago. One of my friends and I were walking to a friend's house and were taking a shortcut. Then out of nowhere, there was this shadow figure about as tall as me, which is 6'3". It had a tail like a wolf, and it was all black. When I first started seeing it, it had eyes about the size of 2 pennies. But as the time went on, they got bigger and bigger. The last time I saw it, its eyes were about the same size as a lime. Not only that, they changed color. What scares me the most is the fact that the last time I saw it was about 2 months ago. It used to show up a few times a week, and its eyes were crimson, which is the aura color of hatred. I've been attacked by it before, painful ear ringing, nausea, and dizziness. It might have gone away, but I think it might be planning something. Nothing has happened yet. Just waiting for it to show up again. Then I'm going to banish it as best I can. If you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. If you'd like to, you can follow me at Twitter. The handle is @FuzzyPantaloons. And I'll see you all next time.